That is not possible now. People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
Hillary Clinton just said that a ceasefire would be a gift to Hamas because it would allow them to rearm their terrorists with more rockets and ammunition to carry out further terrorist attacks on innocent Jewish women, children, babies. Clinton makes a key distinction between the Palestinians and Hamas because Hamas has stolen billions of dollars of aid that was intended for the innocent Palestinians and used it to build terror tunnel networks and to arm themselves with rockets to be fired at the innocent Jewish people next door.
Well, I think that this is one of those dilemmas that is very difficult to have a yes or no answer. I think that you have to keep several thoughts in your head at one time. The terrorism inflicted by Hamas on the Israeli people has to be retaliated against, and they have to pay a price, and they have to, insofar as possible, be deprived of their leadership position in Gaza. Israel has a right to defend itself, and it has a right to, under the laws of war, retaliate through military action against Hamas. And they have an obligation to limit civilian deaths and casualties of all kinds. And the debate has been really binary, yes, no, black, white. Well, that is not the reality on the ground. And I think it will be very difficult for Israel to engage in this urban warfare, especially since we now know that Hamas has established these tunnels, this network of tunnels. So the bombing above the ground that is removing infrastructure is not necessarily impacting Hamas where they are currently operating from. And then we have to remember the hostages. We have hostages from the United States, dual citizens from other European and non-Israeli countries, and we have to do what we can to get those hostages out. So this is a terribly complicated equation for Israel to work through. I do think it's important at some point to try to get fuel into the hospitals. I mean, Israel is understandably worried about the fuel being diverted to Hamas, and that's a totally legitimate worry. But the hospitals will shut down, their generators will shut down without fuel. So I hope David Satterfield is over there trying to help us figure out how we're going to get fuel where it needs to go and not be diverted to be used by Hamas. I think getting the aid in is very complicated. Getting the aid where the aid needs to go is similarly complicated. But we have to be caught trying, and the Israelis should be wanting for us to figure out how to get aid in that will deal with these very serious humanitarian challenges. Personally, I'm not optimistic that this will work the way that we hope it will, but I think that there are a number of people, including your own Ambassador Satterfield, who is there on the ground, but so many others who are trying to figure out how to get what is needed for urgent health and hunger and water to be delivered, along with focused fuel deliveries, if that's possible. Well, very briefly, it was an extraordinary moment because the PLO changed its charter to support the existence of Israel. Hamas never has. Hamas has always been about the destruction of Israel. But the PLO said, no, we want to live together. We want to figure out if there's a way to do that, moving toward a two-state solution. So for the next 2 years, my husband, working with the then government of Ehud Barak, worked on a very detailed offer to the Palestinians, still led by Yasser Arafat. They had a meeting at Camp David. Ehud Barak went as far as any Israeli leader either has or could, and the offer was put on the table. A number of Arafat's supporters wanted him to take the deal. A number of Arab leaders encouraged him to take the deal, but at the end of the day, he walked away from it. If he had not walked away from it, we could have had a Palestinian state, a two-state solution for now 22 years. But he did walk away from it, and then we had the Intifada, we had other kinds of uprisings, because Jim is absolutely right. If you're not talking, if there's not some aspirational goal so that Palestinians and Israelis together can see that there might be a different future, you are giving a tremendous advantage to the terrorists, to the rejectionists, to the obstructionists, and they are not going to hesitate to fill that vacuum with violence, as we have seen. And, you know, I was in Israel in November of 2012 to negotiate a ceasefire because Hamas was firing rockets into Israel once again. There had been casualties, not many, but still, you know, tragic. And Netanyahu, then still prime minister, was saying he needed to go in and clean out Hamas then. And, you know, I thought it was imperative that we try to do a ceasefire at that point in order to try to clear the air. And so I went to Israel, met with, you know, the Israelis, met with the Palestinians, and also met with the Egyptian president, who at that time was the first elected president who had been a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, later overthrown by the current president, Sisi. But he was helpful. We got Hamas to agree to a ceasefire, and, you know, we were able to have a you know, peace agreement for some period of time. That is not possible now. People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, you know, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.